Do you know the rules that sleep in the caves? Not the ones in the tourist guidebooks, but the real rules. Never let go of the light. Wear a cross. And above all, if you find a coffin, never open it. Don't know them? Then you're lucky. But once you hear this story, you'll know the rules too. And once you know them, you'll never look at the darkness underground the same way again. My name is Michael Harris. I'm 24 years old, and I'm a cave diving guide. Or, more accurately, I was. After what happened 2 months ago, I haven't set foot underground since. 2 months ago, I broke every underground rule. I gave in to curiosity. Ever since I was young, caves fascinated me. My heart would pound whenever I found an unexplored spot. What was beyond the darkness? What secrets were hidden in spaces no one had ever entered? That's all I thought about. And this is the result. Every night at 3 a.m., the shadows of a family appear outside my apartment window. They smile, staring intently at me. Even now, they're looking for me. They're waiting for me. It all started 2 months ago, on a Saturday. I heard a rumor about a new cave, an uncharted, hidden cave. That alone ignited my adventurous spirit. The rumor came from a local bar. I overheard a drunken old man muttering, "Beyond the Bear's Head Rock, there's a place God forgot." Other patrons laughed it off, but I didn't. There was a fear in that old man's eyes that couldn't be faked. The next day, I geared up and headed into the forest. Compass, map, rope, pickaxe, emergency rations, and the small silver cross my mother gave me. Though I don't usually believe in superstitions, I always kept my mother's keepsake close. After an hour's walk through the forest, I found the bear head-shaped rock. It was there, all right. The weathered stone surface formed the profile of a roaring bear. Beyond it, half hidden by ferns, was the cave entrance. It was barely wide enough to crawl through. Around the entrance were signs of warning. Old wooden stakes wrapped with red cloth, animal bones scattered on the ground. It was as if they were silently screaming, "No entry beyond this point." Usually, I might have hesitated, but at that moment, I took these signs as proof of an adventure. I checked my gear, helmet, rope, flashlight, extra batteries, and the small silver cross around my neck. My usual charm from my mother. As I slipped into the cave, I was excited. An unexplored place, a darkness no one had ever touched. This was my life's passion. As the light from above faded, the usual thrill surged through me. I had no idea what awaited me. That unknown was what fueled me. The first chamber was narrow, with a low ceiling, rough walls, and gravel scattered underfoot. When I shone my flashlight, I saw two passages. The left passage was a gentle incline. The right was a steep decline. From experience, declines often lead to more interesting discoveries. Without hesitation, I chose the steep decline. The passage continued longer than I expected. As I felt my way along the wall, the rock surface was damp, and sometimes water droplets fell on my head. The air grew heavy and cool, and my breath misted. My thermometer showed it was 10 degrees colder than the surface. The walls pressed in, becoming so narrow I had to take off my helmet. In all my cave explorations, I'd never been in a space this tight. It felt like being swallowed into the Earth's belly. Then, I discovered the first anomaly, a wooden box on the floor. At first, I thought it was an old toolbox, perhaps a lost miner's equipment or something left by an explorer. As I approached and shone my flashlight on it, the nails driven into the corners glinted sharply, but the shape was wrong. It was rectangular with a lid, and a cross was carved into its surface. This wasn't a toolbox. It was a coffin. I froze. A coffin couldn't be here. The damp environment was unsuitable for burial, and the passage was too narrow to bring it in. It had to be someone's prank. I told myself that as I scanned the area, and then I found other coffins. 3 of them, neatly lined up. All the same shape, the same size. Despite the damp environment, they were strangely well preserved. They looked as new as if they'd been placed there yesterday. Around the coffins were traces of some ritual. A white chalk circle drawn on the floor, melted wax from black candles placed at the 4 corners. A sweet, heavy scent, like incense, hung in the air. The first rule was born here: never wake what sleeps in darkness underground. But my curiosity was stronger than my fear. For me, having explored dozens of caves, the unknown wasn't terror, but an allure. And that judgment was the beginning of everything. As I laid my hand on the lid of the first coffin, reason screamed at me. "Stop it," it urged. But my hand moved. The lid creaked, and a smell rose, like an old book. No, that wasn't it. More like the scent of a room long sealed away. The flashlight beam illuminated the interior. A boy, about 6 or 7 years old. Blonde hair, dressed in old-fashioned clothes, a shirt with suspenders, looking as if he'd stepped out of an old photograph. He held a small wooden toy in his hand. It looked like a handmade soldier doll. The boy's skin was waxy white, as if no blood flowed through him, but his face was serene. He even seemed to be faintly smiling. My reason screamed, "This is a fake, an elaborate doll," but my intuition told me otherwise. I slammed the lid shut and stumbled back. My heart pounded so violently it felt like it would burst. I tried to convince myself it was just a doll, but I couldn't help but check. The second coffin held a girl, about 10 years old, dressed in a white lace dress, her hair in braids. In her hand was a porcelain doll, an old-fashioned doll that looked exactly like her. Her face was peaceful, as if she were simply asleep. A faint blush remained on the girl's cheek, as if she had just fallen asleep. I reached out to touch her cheek, but stopped just short. There was an instinctive warning not to touch. The third, the fourth, an adult man and woman. The man in a suit, the woman in a simple dress. The man appeared to be in his mid-30s, with a dignified mustache. The woman held a withered bouquet of flowers, roses. A small wedding ring was tied to one of the stems. They were a family, parents and 2 children, sleeping in this dark cave as if it were their home. But they were dead, undoubtedly dead. Their skin color, lack of body heat, motionless chests, everything indicated death. Yet why were they so perfectly preserved? Why hadn't they decayed? Their skin color, lack of body heat, motionless chests, everything indicated death. Yet why were they so perfectly preserved? Why hadn't they decayed? It was then that I noticed words carved into the wall. "We await the light," a chilling phrase. I didn't understand its meaning, but it had an apocalyptic ring to it. I stood rooted to the spot. A myriad of questions raced through my mind, but there were no answers. Only one thing was certain. I was in a terribly wrong place. The air changed. Not a sound, more like a vibration, as if the entire cave were breathing. When I turned around, the coffin lids were moving. At first, it was a faint creaking, easily mistaken for the cave's natural sounds. But then, the lids began to open, one by one, as if something from within were pushing them up. The man suddenly sat up. so swiftly it scared me to death. His pale face turned toward the woman, who slowly sat up herself. Their movements were fluid, as if they had no joints. The children followed, their small, delicate bodies moving like marionettes. The boy was the first to look at me. The moment his empty eyes fixed on me, my blood froze. Those weren't human eyes. They were dark as deep wells, with no bottom. And something was moving within them. Something like specks of light danced deep in their pupils. No one spoke, but they moved their heads in unison, their empty, unblinking eyes scanning the cave. Their neck movements were unnatural, rotating nearly 180 degrees, an impossible angle for a human skeleton. I scrambled into the shadows, forgetting to breathe. My flashlight was still on, threatening to give away my presence. I quickly extinguished it, plunging myself into a suffocating darkness. My back pressed against the cold, damp stone. I made myself as small as possible. My heart pounded so loudly, I thought they might hear it. Sweat streamed down my forehead, and my palms were slick.
I smell something.
A smooth, cold voice broke the silence. It was the man's voice. It had an unearthly quality, hollow, as if coming from the bottom of a grave.
Yes.
The woman replied. Her tone was lyrical, yet chillingly cold.
Warm, fresh. The smell of life.
A human.
One of the children said. It was the girl's voice.
Close by. I hear a heartbeat.
I gritted my teeth and held my breath. I covered my mouth with my hands, suppressing my frantic breathing. Could they hear my heartbeat? Was that even possible? The sound of the family exiting their coffins echoed through the cave. Their footsteps were deliberate but eerily silent, as if they weren't touching the ground. When I peeked out from behind the rock, their pale skin seemed to glow faintly in the darkness. They glided across the cave floor like ghosts.
Living blood.
The man continued.
It's been a long time.
How long has it been?
The woman's voice held a strange nostalgia.
Was the last one that young girl?
They must be near the entrance.
The man said. A strange excitement tinged his voice.
Let's block the entrance. With nowhere to run, they'll come to us.
Cold dread solidified in my chest. Block the entrance? My escape route? The second rule became clear here. They sense the warmth of the living. They hear heartbeats and smell blood. To them, I was a lighthouse in the darkness. Waiting for the family's footsteps to fade, I headed into another passage. If they were blocking the entrance, I had to find another exit. The passage was narrow. I had to crawl. Rocks pressed in from all sides, and the air grew stiflingly heavy. My footsteps, my breathing, the distant drip of water, every sound was amplified.
Do you smell food?
A voice came from behind me. I shivered, my stomach twisting into knots. I didn't dare look back. I couldn't bear to imagine their pale faces emerging from the darkness. The passage twisted and turned, sometimes opening into small chambers, sometimes narrowing to a crawl. I completely lost my sense of direction.
You can't go far. You'll tire soon.
I shook my head, trying to ignore the voices from behind. It was just my imagination, I told myself. Eventually, I emerged into a larger chamber. The air was thick enough to suffocate, and the smell of damp earth mingled with the scent of blood. My flashlight illuminated a horrific sight. A pile of bones. Countless bones scattered across the floor. Some were old and yellowed, others were fresh, still with traces of flesh. My stomach violently convulsed, and I covered my mouth with my hand, trying to hold back the vomit. This was their feeding ground, their hunting ground. I wasn't the first victim. nor would I be the last. Footsteps approached. Soft, deliberate footsteps. I quickly extinguished my flashlight and pressed myself against the wall. My heartbeat was so loud, I feared they would hear it.
Close.
The man whispered.
Very close.
I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My back pressed against the cold rock. I tried to melt into the darkness. The footsteps stopped. There was silence for a while. Then, a low chuckle.
You can't hide forever.
The woman said. The footsteps receded, but I couldn't move. My back remained pressed against the jagged wall, the uneven rocks digging into my spine. My breathing was shallow, cautious, and quiet, the kind of breathing that would betray my location if I made a sound. My sense of time was lost. I don't know how long I was there. In the darkness, minutes and hours become indistinguishable. My watch had broken on the surface, and I had no way to tell time. I had no choice but to keep going. Staying here would only buy me time. I set my flashlight to its lowest setting and surveyed the space. The bones scattered on the floor glowed dimly in the faint light. Among the bones, a glint of metal shone. When I drew closer, it was an old coin. The inscription was too worn to read, but from its shape, I guessed it was hundreds of years old. I dreaded imagining how ancient this place's history truly was. The next passage was narrower and steeper than the last. The walls pressed in, as if trying to crush me. My hands slipped on the damp rock, and my feet ached. But I was moving further and further from the surface. Further and further from anything resembling safety.
Come back.
The man called. His voice echoed off the cave walls, making it impossible to tell where it came from.
You're just making it harder on yourself.
I gritted my teeth and kept going. My palms were cut by sharp rocks and stung, but I didn't care. Pain was better than stopping, better than being caught.
You'll only tire yourself out.
The woman's voice now flowed toward me.
It's no use. You'll end up in the same place.
When the passage opened into the next chamber, what I felt wasn't relief, but terror, because the chamber wasn't empty. The family was there. All four of them. Standing perfectly still, their pale faces turned toward the passage I had emerged from, as if they knew I was coming. Their eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, a cat-like reflection, but far more eerie than a cat's, holding deep intelligence and ancient malice. As I tried to back away, their heads moved in unison, their unblinking eyes fixed on me. In that moment, I understood. They weren't chasing me. They were hurting me.
There you are.
The man said, his lips slowly curving into a smile. I saw his teeth, sharp bestial canines. I ran without thinking. The passage grew even narrower, my shoulders scraping against the walls. The air stank of decay, and every breath burned my chest. I heard them moving behind me, not running, not chasing, just walking. Their footsteps were deliberate, unhurried, as if they knew I had nowhere to go. And then, something incredible happened. Light. A faint, circular beam of sunlight pierced a crack in the ceiling, a lifeline of light, cutting through the oppressive darkness. My heart leaped. I couldn't explain how sunlight could reach so deep underground, geologically, but I didn't have time to think. It didn't matter. It was light, and I moved toward it. The circle of light was perfect, as if God had prepared it just for me, exactly my size. I stumbled into the space, and for the first time, sunlight hit my face. My legs trembled, and I straightened my back for the first time in hours. The circle of light was small, only a few feet in diameter, but it felt like stepping into another world. The footsteps stopped. When I slowly turned, They emerged from the shadows, one by one. The man, the woman, the children. They stood encircling the sunbeam, but they didn't step into the light's reach. Their skin looked even paler near the light. It was the color of marble illuminated by moonlight. Their expressions were emotionless, but their eyes glowed with cold calculation, and I realized they feared the light. The third rule became clear here. Light is my only shield.
Do you think this will save you?
The man asked. His voice was calm and steady.
It's only a temporary haven.
The woman smiled, tilting her head, observing me as if I were a rare animal in a cage.
Clever. But cleverness can't stop the sun from setting.
The girl giggled.
Such a fun game. We can wait 4 hours, 4 days.
They didn't approach. They just stood there, but their mere presence made the air heavy. The man's smile widened.
The sun won't last much longer, and moonlight is too weak.
I looked up, following the light ray to its source. It was already beginning to fade. The edges of the circle were darkening, and time was ticking away, minute by minute. It was clearly only a matter of time. The sunlight continued to shrink, growing smaller with each passing minute. The circle of light, my shield, was now barely big enough for me to sit in. I hugged my knees, staring at the family, while my dead flashlight lay beside me. They were so patient, unnaturally patient. My flashlight batteries were completely dead. The spare batteries were ruined by the dampness. My modern equipment was useless against this ancient evil. The man, standing outside the fading light, had a triumphant smile on his pale face. Beside him, his wife tilted her head slightly, gazing at me as if observing a curious animal in a cage. The children stood close to their parents, silent and motionless, their dark eyes fixed on me.
What do you believe in?
The woman suddenly asked. There was a strange curiosity in her voice. I didn't answer. There was no reason to.
God?
The man continued.
Fate? Science? Or nothing at all?
The girl's occasional soft giggles sounded like fingernails scraping down a spine.
It's sad not to believe in anything.
Faith is power.
The woman said.
But what if your faith is misplaced?
The circle of protection shrank, and inch by inch, the family advanced with it. Their shadows stretched toward me, like tentacles trying to grasp me. The boy moved first. His small, pale feet stepped into the shadow just outside the edge of the light. Another step, then another. He stopped just shy of the shrinking circle, grinning at me, revealing unnaturally white teeth.
I smell fear.
The boy said.
It's a good smell. Fear sweetens the taste. Fear hormones in the blood.
The man explained in a pedagogical tone.
Adrenaline, cortisol, the best seasoning.
That's enough, boy.
The woman said in a silky, smooth voice. She placed a hand on her son's shoulder and smiled.
Let's let him have his final moments in peace.
They were waiting for the light to die, waiting for me to be swallowed by the darkness they thrived in, and I had no way to resist. The circle of light shrank again. The woman moved closer, her bare feet gliding silently over the rock floor. Only a few feet away now, the smile on her face sharpened. When I looked into her eyes, I saw centuries of hunger churning in the depths of their deep. Well, like darkness. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight. I wanted to do anything but sit and wait for the inevitable. My hands clutched my jacket, pressing it against my chest as if it were a shield. Then I felt it. The cross. The small silver cross around my neck, buried beneath the fabric. I had forgotten its existence. My mother's keepsake. Her last gift to me, when she told me to always wear it. My fingers instinctively wrapped around it, and I hesitated for a moment. Did I really believe it could help? Was it just a symbol, just metal? Nothing more than a product of my mother's superstitious faith? But there was no other choice. And deep down, I remembered my mother's words. Faith can move mountains, she used to say. I didn't believe it, but she did. As I pulled out the cross, the chain glinted faintly in the fading sunlight. The movement immediately drew their attention. The man's eyes narrowed, and the smile vanished from his face. The woman suddenly stiffened, backing away warily.
What is that?
The man asked sharply. My hands trembling, I held the cross forward, the silver catching the last rays of sunlight. The small piece of metal gleamed as if radiating light from within. The woman's expression darkened, and she took a cautious step back.
Put that down.
The woman said. Her voice was no longer gentle. It had the ring of a command. I didn't put it down. I slowly rose, barely able to stand within the shrinking circle of light. The children hissed, their faces distorting into something inhuman. The girl's sweet face transformed into a monstrous one in an instant. Holding the cross like a shield, I took a step forward. The reaction was immediate. The man recoiled, his face contorted in anger and fear. It was as if an invisible flame radiated from the cross.
That won't save you.
The man growled, but his voice trembled.
It's just metal. It means nothing.
But his actions betrayed his words. As I took another step, they all backed away, hissing like cornered animals. The light was almost gone, but the cross seemed to possess a power of its own. They wouldn't approach. The man lunged forward, but the moment the cross caught a faint glow, he staggered back with a groan. The skin on his hand sizzled as if burned, and a thin wisp of smoke rose. The smell of burning flesh filled the air.
Impossible,
the man said, his face contorted in pain.
We are beyond such ancient superstitions.
But it hurts, doesn't it? I spoke for the first time. My voice trembled with fear, but I was certain. I didn't wait for them to regain their composure. Clenching the cross like my only lifeline, I began to move toward the passage. The family encircled me, keeping their distance, their eyes burning with hatred. The children hissed and gnashed their teeth, and the woman's face was a mask of fury.
This isn't over.
The woman shrieked.
We remember you. Your scent, the taste of your blood. We will hunt you forever.
I kept walking. Every step was a victory. My focus was on the passage ahead, putting as much distance as possible between them and me. Each step felt like a battle, my body trembling with fear and exhaustion. The cross felt hot in my hand, but I gripped it tighter, refusing to let go. The family followed me. Their movements were eerily fluid. Their footsteps were almost inaudible, as if they were gliding across the ground, but they maintained a constant distance. They couldn't seem to cross the invisible barrier the cross created.
You don't understand.
The man called from behind.
We have been here for centuries. This land is ours.
Leaving here won't make a difference.
The woman added.
Our influence doesn't stop underground.
The passage gradually widened, and the incline became gentler. The air grew progressively fresher, mixed with the sense of the outside world. The smell of pine, damp earth, and, the most beautiful smell of all, the outside wind. As the passage broadened, the air became cool and fresh. When I saw a faint light ahead, my heart leaped. It was the entrance, the way out, but it was still far, and the family was still pursuing me. They saw it too. The woman lunged forward, but the cross repelled her again. blistering the skin on her right arm where a rose tattoo seemed to be. A rose tattoo. I didn't have time to ponder its meaning then. The children shrieked in high, unnatural voices, and the man's face contorted in pure rage.
Your faith is strong,
The man said through gritted teeth.
but not eternal.
As the entrance light grew closer, the family's movements became more frantic. They seemed to show a sense of urgency, as if on a time limit. The boy tried to circle around me, but when I pointed the cross at him, he shrieked and recoiled. I stumbled out into the entrance, and the cool evening air enveloped me like a bomb. The sunlight was almost gone, the horizon painted with the last streaks of orange and purple. But there was enough light to keep them at bay. I didn't stop moving. I couldn't. My feet moved automatically, my instinct for escape driving me. As I crossed the threshold, the family stopped. They stood inside the cave, their pale faces framed by shadows, the last streaks of sunlight reflected in their unblinking eyes. They couldn't come out. The threshold of the entrance seemed to be a boundary where an ancient force was at play. For a while, no one moved. Then the boy tilted his head, his hair falling across his face.
Mother,
The boy said softly, almost petulantly.
I'm sad. He could have been family.
There will be another chance.
The woman comforted her son.
There always is.
The man in the center's expression was unreadable, but I saw something in his eyes, a promise, a threat, a certainty that this wasn't over. I didn't wait for anything else. My legs carried me to my car. With trembling hands, I jammed the key into the ignition, and the engine roared to life. In the rearview mirror, the cave entrance was no longer visible, but I knew, instinctively, they were still there, watching me go. I drove faster than I ever had before, my headlights cutting through the deepening darkness. I didn't stop, didn't even look back. Only one thing was certain: I had escaped alive. When I returned to town, I couldn't keep quiet. My body trembled with adrenaline, and my mind was a jumble. But I had to talk. I needed someone to believe me. I went straight to the local police station, burst into the lobby, and babbled frantically about the family in the cave. The desk officer looked at me as if I had two heads.
Calm down, Mr. Harris.
He said.
Start from the beginning.
I tried to explain. The coffins, the pale family, the power of the cross. But as I spoke, it all sounded unreal. The officer's expression shifted from sympathy to skepticism.
You seem to be in shock.
The officer said.
I recommend you go to the hospital.
I spoke to a few locals as well, and it was clear they thought I was just an imaginative outsider. When I told the drunken patrons at the bar, they laughed me off.
Another cave ghost story.
One said.
Someone tells a story like that every year.
Every year? I leaned forward. Have others had similar experiences? But they didn't answer. They suddenly clammed up, changing the subject, as if they were hiding something. Finally, in desperation, I went to the church, a small stone building with an old bell hanging from its steeple. The priest was an old man in his 70s, kind but skeptical. I told him everything about the family, the coffins, the shrinking sunlight, the cross. He listened patiently, but his expression remained unchanged. He clasped his fingers together, nodding occasionally. When I finished, he sighed and leaned back in his chair.
My son,
He said slowly, carefully.
people often see things they cannot comprehend in moments of great terror. I assure you that what you experienced felt real to you. But
It was real, I interrupted, pounding the desk. They're still down there, waiting for someone else to stumble into that cave. The priest looked at me for a long time, then leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk.
I will pray for you.
He said simply. His tone was kind, but I knew he didn't believe a word I said. I stood up, defeated, and headed for the exit. No one would believe me. No one understood. As I reached for the door, the priest's voice stopped me.
About that tattoo.
He said, his voice suddenly sharp.
The tattoo on the young woman's arm you mentioned. What did you say it was?
I turned back, confused. It was a rose, I said. A simple black rose. On her right arm, the color drained from the priest's face. He sank back into his chair, his hands gripping the armrests.
A rose?
He whispered to himself.
It could be a coincidence. It must be a coincidence.
But his expression showed it was no coincidence. I frowned and approached. What do you mean? You know something about them? The priest stood up and walked to a bookshelf. He took out an old, leather-bound book and began to flip through the pages.
Maria Rosario,
He murmured.
a young woman who disappeared in 1892. She had a rose tattoo on her right arm.
My heart nearly stopped. 1892? But she looked.
Young, didn't she?
The priest turned back, deep sorrow in his eyes.
They all look young. They remain as they were when they died.
But the priest didn't answer. His gaze was distant, fixed on something far beyond the room we were in. I waited, but realizing the priest wouldn't say anything, I left. I couldn't stay in that town. I couldn't even stay in that state. Within a week, I packed all my belongings and moved to the other side of the country. A new place. A distant place with no caves or dark, winding passages. Sunny California, near the ocean. A place where light was always within reach. But I couldn't escape from the memories. I tried to move on, but the memories lingered. I couldn't shake the image of their pale faces, and their voices echoed in my head. I kept the cross beneath my shirt, as if it alone kept me safe. I tried to find a new job, but I couldn't take anything related to caves. Geology, mining, construction, anything involving the underground triggered panic attacks. Eventually, I became a surfing instructor on the coast, under the sun, in open spaces. But at night, the nightmares began. Dreams of the Pale family chasing me. Dreams of losing my cross and being swallowed by the darkness. And I always woke up at 3 a.m. And a few weeks later, I saw the news. A small article in a corner of the local online newspaper. It reported an unexpected collapse of a cave system near the area I had left. There were no injuries, no reports of anyone being inside, but the caves were completely sealed off. The article was short and factual. Geological anomaly causes cave system collapse. Cause unknown. Authorities have established a restricted area. The article referred to it as a strange geological phenomenon, a sinkhole. Nothing more. There was no earthquake, no explosion. The caves just suddenly collapsed. But I knew better. The timing, the location, it was too perfect to be a coincidence. I couldn't prove it, but I was certain the priest had done something. Maybe he went back to that cave after I left. Maybe he saw something that convinced him I was telling the truth. Perhaps he finally completed a sealing that generations of priests had failed to achieve. Perhaps he took drastic measures so that no one else would ever encounter that family. I'll never know for sure. The priest didn't leave a note, and he wasn't mentioned in the article. But I can't forget his pale face when I spoke about the rose tattoo. Whatever he knew, whatever he saw, I'm glad he did what he did. Maybe they were crushed by the rocks and died. Maybe not. All I can hope for is that they are trapped in that place, starving, weakened, and that they never come out again. But sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm certain they're still alive, somewhere, waiting. That's why I told you this story. You now know the rules of the underground. Never let go of the light. Wear a cross. And if you find a coffin, never, ever open it. And above all, never go alone. But there's something more important. If you ever hear anything about an old cave, about missing people, or about a family sleeping underground, run. Don't investigate. Don't go near. Curiosity is human nature. I was the same. A thirst for the unknown, a desire to uncover secrets. But some secrets are better left buried forever. If you are reading this, you now know the rules. And once you know them, you can never forget. That is the power of the rules. Knowledge is also a curse. My name is Michael Harris. I met the family sleeping underground, and I escaped alive. But they haven't given up on me. Every night at 3 a.m., I see shadows outside my window. Sometimes one, sometimes four. They smile, staring at me, beckoning, as if to say,
One day, you'll be family too.
distance doesn't seem to matter. Across countries, across oceans, they find me. Or perhaps I see them. Whether it's a hallucination created by memory, or if they are truly there, I no longer know. But one thing is certain. As long as I wear the cross, they cannot come close. My mother's last gift is my last shield. When you enter a cave, be careful. If you find a coffin in the darkness, run. If you hear the voices of a family underground, move toward the light. And above all, never go alone. They wait for those who are alone, forever and always. And now you know this story too. Be careful. Keep the rules of the underground, because with knowledge comes responsibility. When you tell someone this story, and one day you will, they too will know the rules. Just as a curse spreads, so does knowledge. But that's okay. The more people who know, the more people who can be safe. I can't warn everyone alone, but if you, and those you tell, continue to warn others, maybe someone's life can be saved. I still wake up at 3 a.m. I look out the window, and I grip my cross. I don't know how long it will last, but I will endure. I will survive, and I will keep warning. You do the same. Don't let the family sleeping underground claim their next victim.